Welcome back to Castle of Illusion. So, since it was a short experience anyway, we already collect all the 7 rainbow gems, so it's time to face Mizrabel once and for all.
Time for the final showdown!
I think before I just showcase the missing paintings that I managed to collect thanks to the minor diamonds that I collected. Again, I'm not going for a 100% run, but it's easy to do it anyway. The game doesn't have a platinum, sadly. The trophies are very bare bones, but they are relatively challenging on the mid part, I would say. There we go. There you go, just like in the original, you need to reach the place and the rainbow gem will be created. However, here he's in 3D.
Yeah.
He knew it was the heart of Mizrabel's power.
How did he know exactly? He read the script.
Well,
Yes.
it's simple, because obviously the heart of the villain's power is always at the deepest, darkest place of it. That's hard to reach.
There you go, Rainbow Road.
This is why most villains should know this. I will not put the source of the power in the most hardest to reach place whatsoever. I will put it in my safety deposit box.
Pedro,
Yes, Dwibs?
do Chaos Emeralds make rainbows?
There was that one time.
To be fair,
You just
Leaves
reminded
Chaos
me of
Emerald-
something.
To be fair, Leaves Chaos Emeralds do whatever the plot is convenient for them to do. So.
That too.
To answer your question properly, the Super Emeralds make rainbows.
Alright,
Alright, what were you saying, Pedro?
first you
Hold
get...
on, this is important.
Yeah, just for explaining. First, you get a mini platforming challenge, something that there wasn't in the original. Basically, it's a final platforming test gauntlet. You need to just go, without stopping. Go ahead, Pedro.
You just reminded me of an old SEGA forums post that I made, that I read. That was hilarious. Basically, it was this guy trying to argue why the modern Sonic era games are terrible, and he said, and here's his quote on Sonic Colors, Joey. You're gonna love this one.
Okay.
Sonic Colors is garbage. Why? Why? Because Sonic is not about flying through rainbows. Wait, and I'm like, what?
Since
yes.
Since when do you do that in the game?
The SEGA forums were a magical place back in the day, Dwibs.
I think the closest thing you get to do that is in that stage where you run into that purple...
Yeah, Starlight
laser
Carnival.
field. Starlight
Yeah.
Carnival, but...
That's
And people
more-
wonder, and fans wonder why Sega doesn't take them seriously most of the time.
Yeah.
They're full of
I was
responses
never a
like
member of the Sega forums, but I've heard many wonderful stories.
I used to be a
Yes.
member on the Sega forums beforehand, and, well,
Condolences, Jonah.
yeah. I'll say this,
There we go.
you know, it's kind of a sad thing, though, that Sega forums kind of ended up dying,
Alright,
but I guess it was only a matter
there's
of
an
time.
initial cutscene and a dialogue.
Alright, then.
I attempted and failed to join Retro twice.
Oh, I never tried to join Retro.
There you go.
It's more of a hassle than it's.
It's a shame the SEGA forums closed down this year, because otherwise I could show you guys that post, but now it's officially lost.
Yeah.
Alright, now listen to the incantation that Mizrabel is about to say.
You're getting this from a mouse.
Who are you to judge?
And Mickey gets a non-standard game over.
Surprisingly, no.
Who's voicing Minnie in this one?
Let me
The-
guess,
the
Lucy
same
Taylor.
Was
Yes.
it Taylor?
Ah, okay.
I don't know who voices Mizrabel. I haven't checked.
Most likely, what's her name? See, the thing is, too, when it comes to playing the
Hold
evil
on.
witch,
Yeah, hold on.
Maleficent.
Hold on, Dweebs. Now, here's the cool thing about this boss fight. She recites the spell that she's going to use to attack, and all these formulas are actually really badass.
Wow.
And we're also in tune with the music. Basically, everything in this boss fight is basically in tune to work simultaneously at the same time. The
So
only
it's
major
like a
problem again
Fantasia
is
boss.
the difficulty that has been bit too sudden. Second thing, wall rush, basically. But anyway, go ahead, Pedro.
Hold on, I'm just checking real quick.
There you go, just like that. Every time she does that, she gets weaker, then you can jump on her again. Again, it's a bit more challenging than it was in the original, where she was just flying around and you had to jump on her.
Hey, let's play hopscotch with the magic spells.
It's a surprise, again, it's a surprising tool that will help us later.
Surprisingly, no, it wasn't her.
It's like
basically-
it's like the final boss in the Deathly Hallows Part 2 video game where you just play skip rope.
Do you actually use any spells?
Yes,
Stupefy.
but the spells are a bit weird in that game.
It's
Apparently,
Stupefy, isn't
Petrificus Totalis is a sniper rifle.
Mizrabel is voiced by Nika Fatterman.
Oh,
she is.
I recognize her. She sticks.
Oh,
Oh.
nice.
Oh,
So
Interesting.
she's Maru Maru.
I'm surprised they didn't use Suzanne Blakesley. For those who don't know, Suzanne Blakesley is the official voice of Maleficent, and she's also the official voice of Lady Tremaine. Like
Yeah.
whenever, but for example, like Eleanor Audley, who voiced both Maleficent and Lady Tremaine in their original films. And to this day, the two characters still share the same voice actress because Suzanne does both Lady Tremaine and Maleficent in the Kingdom Hearts games. And she also did the witch in the Brave video game. And guess what, Tara? She was Madame Leota in the first Epic Mickey game. So basically, she's Disney's go-to actress for evil witches and wizards. So I'm really surprised I didn't just use her.
I guess the reason is like, well, she's technically not Maleficent here, unlike in
Yes,
some
I
other
died on
game.
the last hit.
Yeah, trust me, that's really easy to do because that last hit is hard because, like seriously, like it becomes really troubling because
And also Whiplash with the trail of the music, but whatever, moving on.
well, it was kind of how it was in the
Yeah,
game.
we beat the evil witch.
Alright, the ending is pretty much the same, but they kind of do a bit of a justification on that. Remember that final attack when Mickey does?
Was dazed. For how long? Suddenly, Mickey had an idea.
Yeah, just toss the shit out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And my guess is the writers of the game looked at the ending of the original and like, okay, how the hell do we find a justification for this? Why does Mickey get this ball and shit? So here's what they do is, Mickey just decides, what would happen if I just threw the crystal at her?
Oh.
They couldn't come up with a good reason
Wait.
for why that happens.
Wait.
So they literally just do that.
Hold on, you wanted to be the first of them also. Wait, so now you're the evil queen from Snow White.
In case
Actually, yeah, she actually
Oh,
appears on.
that's a good reminder, Jova. Hold on, I'll wait till this.
last, and Mizrabel wilted and
Mizrabel.
Hold on, Jova, because we're about to get a very cliched line,
Minnie
sadly. I mean, it works for this kind of narrative, but it's still very aggravating.
She's about
Especially
to.
considering we are finished.
I've been
by the time we-
foiled by the power of love.
Yeah, considering we are being done recently by the time we're recording with Lightning Returns, it's more aggravating.
What I'm trying to figure out is how fusing Minnie with the witch from Snow White creates Maleficent.
You'll have to find out in Power of Illusion, Shirley. But anyway, Mizrabel's now good now.
Yeah, just like
Well,
in the original.
that's how it was in the original
Yeah.
game.
defeated. And why?
I like how they actually do a bit of a facial change to make her look slightly less
The
ugly,
magic
too.
of
Yeah.
love.
Minnie, she,
Hold on, you're about to get it, Dibs.
Mickey and Minnie knew it well, and even after what she had put them through, they shared its secrets.
I don't want to know how.
Now,
Thanks, narrator.
Mizrabel's
Yeah, the
heart
magic of love.
There we go.
So why is...
Sally, have you been drinking again at the bar?
Yeah, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was the strangest story Sully ever told. And that includes the story from Uncharted 2.
Where were we?
I like the story of Uncharted 2. The only real problem it was that it.
I said weirdest, not
And there you go.
Oh,
Just like
anything.
it's presented like a theater, which is again nice, considering all the characters presented here were
Hey,
part of.
down in front, I can't see the credits.
There you go.
Just to
is
finish,
not
to finish,
yeah, go ahead, Pedro.
one thing that I did forget, Joe, is that Suzanne Blakesley is also the current voice of the Snow White evil queen, and by extension, her evil old witch counterpart.
She voiced them in Bird by Sleep, I think.
She's great at voicing not just Maleficent, but plenty of other evil witches. So considering the nature of this witch, who's clearly is a reminder to the Snow White one, you'd think it would get Suzanne to do the voice. She's the most obvious choice.
She also voiced Madame Web in Spider-Man Shadow Dimension, so yeah.
It depends. Do they use her for Power of Illusion where
Power of Illusion doesn't have voice acting.
Oh.
No.
Forget, is Mizrabel also the villain of Power of Illusion?
By the way, that's we just said in the credits. Executive producer Imiko Yamamoto. She's the director of the original game.
So yeah, this was the remake. Final thoughts. Go ahead first, Dweebs.
It was a video game. I'm not quite sure if I'd enjoy it myself, but I got the Steam version because that was around the time that people were thinking, oh no, the game's gonna fall off of everything. And actually, I got the PS3 version, but I haven't played it.
Okay. Would you say you would prefer this remake over the original from what you've seen?
Yeah, because there's a bit more 3D here as opposed to.
And also presentation, I guess.
Yes.
All right then. You're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, Shiroi.
I also prefer this one. It's a lot more flushed out than the original, and everything seems to flow a lot better with the inclusion of an actual hub world, even if you are just going door to door. Aside from some bullshit enemy and obstacle placement, this was a lot better, I think, overall.
Alright then.
I don't really have much to say other than that, really.
Oh, no, don't worry. Jova.
Yeah, I definitely prefer this to the original because, the presentation values here are better, the voice acting's good, the atmosphere looks good, for the most part, the level design is well kept and keen. There are a few hiccups here where it's a bit unfair, but other than that, it's still a pretty fun game and definitely builds off more on it. There's more challenge to it than in the original in some places, there's more fairness to it than the original in some cases, and there's a lot more flavor and added touches to it that, again, make this what it should be, an improved remake.
Alright, Pedro?
Yeah, like I said, for the most part, it is a better game than the original. Although there are some things I still kind of prefer. I still kind of wish they should have refought that final hit of Mizrabel a bit better because that spike was a bit too high. I died as well in the exact same way that Teo died in this playthrough. So that spike is that should have been better thought out. And there are some other things that I think are big. Like, for example, I kind of wish, considering how there's so little 3D in it, I think they should have stuck with just a plain 2D hand-drawn sprite remake instead of having 10% 3D and having 90% of the game be 2D. Because, don't get me wrong, the 3D graphics look fine, but you can tell that the tight budget and the rushed nature limited them a bit, and I think for the sake of their limited budget, they should have stuck with something that would fit their budget a bit more. I think a 2D way forward style of platformer would have fit their budget more in this case, because there are some aspects of the game where you can tell that they bit off a bit more than they could chew. Aside from that, yeah, but overall, despite some minor issues that I have, this is still a better game than the original overall because it does flesh out some things. It tries to give justification to that ending. Whether or not it succeeds, it's up to you. But yeah, he just thinks, what if I threw this thing at her? What would happen? It's kind of
like Edgeworth with the gun in the elevator.
I can imagine Sega Studios Australia looking at that ending in the original and thinking, okay, how the fuck can we have this make a bit more sense? And
Let's
there
just
was
throw
one,
it.
and eventually someone threw the raspberry there. Oh, fuck it! He just throws it at her because why not? There you
Not
go.
just that, remember, they were both on a tight budget and on a very tight schedule. So basically, they had little time and little money to work with, which
Yeah,
which
the
can
sorry.
which kind of tells also one thing that I mentioned more detail later, the fact that it's a shame. I honestly think that the passion of the creator means that this game could have been much more than it was right now. But go ahead, Pedro, first.
It's that stuff is exactly the primary reason why I think they should have just gone for a hand-drawn sprite 2D game, because that would have allowed them to it would be would take less time to make and would cost less money, and and they would actually probably end up an overall better product because it would be more consistent. So that's the only real thing. Like, it's one of those things where the developers, when they realized that Sega was giving them a tight budget and a tight schedule, that's when they should have realized, okay, let's try to keep this a humble remake. Let's not bite off more than we can chew. And while the game still is better than the original, I still think there are some bits where they bit off a bit more than they could chew. So it's still it's a great remake, but it could have used some more thought in the early planning. That's the only thing I have to say.
All right. Basically, for me, it's other than what it was said. I honestly think also the tight budget and the tight schedule influence, in a sense that, for example, despite this remake amplifying a bit some things, it's still very it looks a bit unfinished in some parts of the presentation, like mainly the cutscenes that are formed just with Steam image, and they tell only just a bit more of a story. They still leave a lot of things just to the imagination of the player. Everything, and again, like Pedro said, that ending, it's all again to your discretion, pretty much. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this remake because it was for a cheap price, and it's based on, basically, it has a nostalgia factor, and thanks to the low price, it's also a thing that people can enjoy it from the new. It's a shame that not all copies came out with the original bundle. I think they should have tried to do something like that instead of leaving just a pre-order exclusive. But what can I say? It's still really solid on its own merit, and it's a shame to me that Sega Australia sadly got closed right after this, because they show that they wanted to continue this and make remakes of the other Illusion titles. They members will got reincorporated, I think, into Creative Assembly, so they're not left without a job. And also shout out to Kirko and Kirkov, which again remakes the score in a very fantastic way to me. The original is still very doable. You can also have the option to switch it if you want from the remake to the 16-bit if you want. But also these remake orchestral compositions are equally solid to me. So overall, a really solid product that just was bugged down, and it could have been more, but was bugged down. But still, very funny. All right,
like I said, I still argue that some of those problems could have been not around if, like I said, if they had decided to calm their ambitions a bit and realize that, like I said, like if they made it a way forward style platformer, this probably would have turned out a more consistent product.
I mean, to be fair though, even WayForward has to crowdfund some of the games like those. So...
that is because the way we're doing it is not exactly cheap. We needed their financing instead. Using simple 3D models is actually cheaper on the way. So you can say that it's not a justification, but it's a thought that it can happen. Anyway. That is all for the Castle of Illusion games. Again, there's a Master System version, but it's not that different to warrant a look at it.
Look forward to the next Illusion game we make. Probably Power of Illusion.
I think it is.
Power of Illusions? Okay.
Yeah, the one with Donald Duck as well. All right, see ya.
See ya.
See ya.